would you recommend this film to someone who hasn't seen it? And spoiler free at the moment because I don't know. We'll touch on a bit of plot points, but in case somebody's listening who hasn't seen the film, would you recommend it to them, Jaden?
Um, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rewatch podcast. My name is Samuel,
And I'm Jaden.
and usually this is a podcast where we rewatch classic or current films and then decide whether they deserve a rewatch from you. However, we like to shake that up every now and then and do a bit of a more modern movie,
Yep.
especially one that's just come out, so we can sort of get in on the conversation. But before we get into that, a like on this video would be most appreciated. You can subscribe if you'd like. If you're tuning in on Spotify or another major podcast app, you can find us on YouTube by searching The Rewatch. So what did we watch this week, Jaden?
We rewatched Soul, which is the newest Pixar film that released on Disney Plus.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are going to be able to have access to this movie. So we wanted to, come on and have a bit of a discussion about it because I think it's going to sweep the Oscars this year, and whether it deserves to sweep the Oscars or not is a question to get into a bit later on. But story overview for this, so it was created by Pixar. It's got quite a bit of hype around it, I'd say, in terms of animated movies. But story overview: Joe is a middle school band teacher whose life hasn't quite gone the way he expected. His true passion is jazz, and he's good. But when he travels to another realm to help someone find their passion, he soon discovers what it means to have a soul. So this film was directed by Pete Docter, right? And I want to touch on this briefly, Jaden, because we've been harsh on Pixar in the past for not having
Original ideas.
exactly, yeah. And Pete Docter's a rare soul because the four movies he's done, or the four major movies he's done, are Monsters Inc., Up, Inside Out, and Soul.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so
Considering
no
that he did
sequels.
Inside Out.
Yes, it is very similar to Inside Out, isn't it? That's what I got. Yeah, so this man hasn't done a sequel. He also hasn't done anything that's sort of like what he's done before, except I'd say Soul is quite similar to Inside Out, definitely borrows a few things. But Monsters Inc., Up, and Inside Out, those are all radically different, different tones
Yeah.
and different films.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and obviously he's, worked on a lot of the other Pixar films as a creative team member. But to have four Pixar films that are different enough and they're not, sequels, I think we need to give a bit of credit to this man because he's he's a good guy at Pixar, it seems. But yeah, so the 2021 Oscars, I think they're supposed to be early next year. People are already calling it. I think this will win Best Animated Film because I really can't think of any other half decent animated films that have come out this year. But Jaden, do you think it's gonna sweep the Oscars? And if so, or if not, which Oscars will it win?
Look, I definitely think that it is going to do well at the Oscars, but that doesn't really reflect my opinion on this film. And I'm not going to go too much into it because I don't want to spoil my rating on it. But it's just one of those films where after you watch it, it's like, yeah, this is going to win some Oscar somehow. I mean, the Oscars has just brought out their statement saying that the films need diversity in them now to be applicable for an Oscar, and this has that. So let's tick that box. And then, it's just one of those films, like, it's so unique and original, so the Oscars will just, like, suck it up. Like they just
Yeah.
take in everything there and love it. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's probably worthy of an Oscar. But yeah.
So you don't think it's worthy for, say, like the the best animated film of the year?
Well, I'm just trying to think of other animated films that
Yeah,
have
I
been
there's not much
nominated.
competition. Usually Pixar just like wins this every single year. It's almost rare if Pixar don't win this.
Yeah, well,
Um,
something like that, I can see it winning, and I wouldn't be mad about that because there's no doubt about it. The animation looks good. It's just
mm,
nothing like really stood out to me. Probably the only thing that really stood out to me was Joe Gardner in like real life and how we've talked about this before, but how you kind of bend in the borders of like what is real and what is animated. Like it's
yeah,
kind of finding this place in between where it just looks kind of weird.
yeah.
Um, but no, I think it looked really good, the animation in this film.
Definitely for sure. So characters for this film, obviously you've just mentioned Joe, is played by Jamie Foxx. People would know him from all sorts of
Oh,
things.
is he played by Jamie Foxx?
Yeah, yeah. So
Ah,
obviously, Jamie Foxx, he's Electro. He's in Django Unchained. He won the Oscar for that. He's in Baby Driver. He's in lots of things.
he's
People know
also a
who Jamie
musician.
Foxx is.
Yeah,
So and also we have Tina Fey as 22. No, not many people would know who Tina Fey is, I don't think. But let's see what else she's done. A few more animated things. We've got Megamind, for example. I think she's a comedian or tries to be at least. So she's got like a lot of, sort of like she's in Anchorman 2, for example. So like lots of sort of like, not the most let's say dramatic roles.
hmm
Um, but yeah, I think she's fine in this. So is Jamie Foxx. Like I think Jamie Foxx is good, but like I don't know, it's nothing. You can't. For me, it's like you can't really have a voice actor that truly gives a fantastic performance. Like it's just I don't know because they go in and they do all of their lines in a couple days and then they're
yeah,
done. It's like there's less of an impact in animated movies in terms of the actors themselves, at least. But we also have Graham Norton in this film, so a lot of people would know him from the Graham Norton Show, which is one of those bizarre late night shows
yeah,
that get celebrities on every weekend or something. So he's Moonwind, which is like the hippie pirate guy,
yeah.
who's the sign spinner. Then we also have Rachel House, who we were just talking about, who's Terry, and she was hilarious. I love Terry's character.
I think she was pretty good in this film. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's been in what was it, Hunt for the Wilder People, or
Yeah, Hunt for the
yeah,
Wilder People, which is a great film. I definitely
it
think you
is.
should watch. Oh, you've already
No,
seen it?
no, yeah, yeah, I've watched it.
Great,
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
yeah.
bloody hilarious.
No, she's been in quite a lot of New Zealand films. I mean, she was in Thor Ragnarok, which was directed by Taika Waititi, who is from Auckland, I believe.
Yeah, and Taika Waititi directed Hunt for the Wilder People as well.
Yeah, yeah, he's done a bunch of stuff with Marvel. Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I think all around the characters were pretty good. I think obviously Joe is the protagonist, and I think he's great, but nothing too special. I mean, he's just a guy that has a nice story, and the film
yeah.
tells the story quite well. Um, so, general thoughts: would you recommend this film to someone who hasn't seen it? And spoiler free at the moment, because I don't know. We'll touch on a bit of plot points, but in case somebody's listening who hasn't seen the film, would you recommend it to them, Jaden?
Um, yeah. Look, if you just want to like, if you're not really doing anything else and you just want to watch a film, yeah, it's great for that. Um, I'm probably not going to watch this film again in my lifetime. It's probably going to be quite some time until I watch it again.
Mhm.
But by no means is it like a terrible film. So I'm not going to say holy moly, don't waste all your money on this film. It's absolutely horrendous. No, it's not. It's a good film. Um, it's probably just not my cup of tea, and I feel like Pixar has done better before. And if you're going into this film thinking Pixar is just great for their original work, and this is going to blow my mind. It didn't do that for me. So
Mhm.
if you're wanting that experience, no. But if you're just wanting to watch a great animated film, yeah, go and watch it.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people have jumped on Letterboxd and been like, "This is like the best Pixar film ever," and you see it appearing at the top of people's lists, and people saying, this is the textbook definition of a one of a kind movie. That there's nothing textbook about it, and I'm like, this is a great movie, right? But
Hmm.
there's everything textbook about it. This isn't like a revolutionary, like, this isn't an animated movie that's going to change animated movies for the rest of time.
Yeah.
And it's structured exactly like every other animated movie. It's short, it's sweet, it's Pixar, so they try to make you cry.
Always.
And there's good performances, but there's nothing like, oh my gosh, my mind has been blown, like Toy Story and Cars are so small in comparison to this film. Like, and everyone's saying like this is one of the, well, not everyone, there's just a few people, I guess, but it's reviewing quite well. And I think people are jumping the gun.
Yeah.
And I think when you put out a 5-star review after just seeing a film and you say it's like one of your favorite films of all time, like, I think it's your responsibility as a critic to like recognize the fact that because you've just seen it, you're going to be biased. Like,
Mm.
if you watch this film and then you go watch like Finding Nemo, I'd probably have a hard time telling you which one was better.
Hmm.
Whereas these people are just like, because they probably haven't seen the other movies in so long, I feel like they're just jumping to the conclusion that this one is by far the best because they just watched it and it was good, like every other Pixar movie. So I don't know. There's a bit of a rant for you about the critics, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see the reviews come in because I've seen a couple like 3 stars, and I've seen a lot of this is perfect and very moving. And to be honest, I wasn't that moved
No.
by it at all.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of like, would I recommend this? Most people have Disney Plus, and I
Yeah,
think it's a good
yeah.
watch.
If you
So,
have Disney Plus, go for it, right? I wouldn't go out of my way to buy Disney Plus to watch this. No.
yeah, buy Disney Plus to watch The Mandalorian.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you
Yeah,
go. Now we're talking.
yeah, and the Clone Wars, and then maybe once you're done with that, maybe you can watch Soul.
Mm.
Um, be part of the conversation. But let's go into spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the film, go give it a watch. You might like it. I mean, it's a well crafted film. Like, it's not bad at all.
No, like I said, yeah, it's an enjoyable film to watch. It's just not mind blowing as
Mm,
many Pixar films are.
yeah, yeah. It's not like changing the stage of
No.
animation. But so spoiler thoughts now. Just before we briefly get into that, we've touched on the animation. Is the animation, again? Is it too good? We spoke about this in Onward, and we also spoke about it in Coco as well. And when Pixar is doing humans, right? When they're just showing the everyday world
Yeah,
in their animated world, it looks so real.
it's getting weird, man. It's getting to the point where it's like I don't know if I like it because it's like this freakish uh,
Yeah,
mix between a real person and then this man with huge eyes and a massive nose and this
yeah.
weird body figure because he's animated. It's
Hmm.
I don't know. It's kind of disturbing, but you live with it anyway.
Yeah, I was sort of relieved once the sort of supernatural elements of the film came in, like the fact that you have all of these souls, and he's become a blue blob, and he's like in this world that we've never seen before.
That's
That's
interesting you say
brilliant.
that. Hmm.
Like, because once you get into that otherworldly aspect, like, you have to do that in animation. Whereas like the Joe Gardner story, I feel like that could have just been normal life. Like, you could have just, like, if you take out the whole soul element of the film and you just make it about this man who's a jazz, or he wants to be a jazz player, but certain things in his life haven't gone the way he expected, so he hasn't been able to fulfill his dream. I mean, that's just a good film that you can do. Like that doesn't have to be animated,
See,
right?
it's interesting you say that because when I first watched, oh, when I first watched the trailer for this film, I I was really hoping that it would focus on um, Joe Gardner in New York and him following and pursuing his jazz career. And then when the trailer took a turn and he fell down a manhole into this soul world, um, it it kind of just took me out of it, and I was like, oh, here's another rehashed Pixar Inside Out film, and
Mm,
I've had that same opinion after watching the film as well. I really, really, really would have enjoyed this film to just be solely about, they can still take it in the soul career and explore that, but
mm.
I feel like they probably should have just stuck to this film with this man who follows his jazz career and has these ups and downs. I really would have enjoyed that more because I don't know, it kind of just it went from like an adult film to like a kids film way too quick for me. And this sole person who makes like kids jokes, and I don't know, it kind of lost me when it did that.
Yeah, he falls into this like soul world in the first 10 minutes I've got here. So there's not a lot of time um, in the real world where everything is not where everything is completely normal. Like, we see the world as we know it,
Mm.
right? And then he falls into this like fantastical, blue blobs everywhere, like afterlife sort of situation. And it's like, that looks great in animation. I love seeing all of the colors and, you got the bright blues and, obviously the Terrys and Jerrys are, they're well animated and it's cool to see that. But when he's just like walking around New York City, I'm like, I don't like the look of this film. Like it's obviously well crafted, right? And the animators did such a good job because it looks fantastic. But I think this is an issue that Pixar's going to have to address at some stage because eventually, like, are they going to keep progressing this animation so that you can like see the pores on his face or something? Like, they're just going to keep on making it more realistic. And I feel like the point of animated movies is to not be realistic. It's to, immerse you in a different world. It's not to try and convince you that this is the real world.
Mm.
But what are your thoughts? Like, do you think eventually Pixar will just have to like put a plug on it and just say like this is how far we'll go? Or do you think they're just going to keep on going and add like extra facial hair animations and
It's
it's
interesting because, yeah, like you said, where is their best point? Can they go further than this? You don't really know until like the future, right? Where they
mm.
discover all these new animation techniques and progress. But yeah, I honestly don't know if they can get better than this.
And to be honest, I think yeah. Well, look, as soon as they get into the Soul world, it looks gorgeous. Like I loved seeing all of the different colors. It's like when watching Spider Verse, right? Everything is different color and it's uniquely animated. It doesn't try convince you that you're going to walk outside and the lamppost is going to like shatter into a different dimension and there's going to be Spider-Man swinging around. Like, it's not trying to convince you that this is the real world. Whereas this film, I think it sort of is, like, because it's so realistic. It's like, look, it's exactly how New York City is in real life. I don't know. It reminds me of those movies where you have like half and half, like, where like what's the film with the bunny in it? Where it's like maybe it's like an Easter movie, but there'll be like a movie where there's like a human character and then he like
Oh,
meets like a Detective Pikachu sort of thing.
you're talking about Hop.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you sort of have like half and half. Like I think that's like a CGI animation, but um because like I don't know, when you have half and half, right? It looks weird. And I feel like this movie sort of tried to do half and half, like because
It's
I don't.
I don't think they tried to do half and half. I think they tried to make it a solely animation film, but it just came out as being half half because like it
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
too
Sort of like that
realistic.
impression. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I've been waiting quite some time for an animation film that's like solely about music, and from the trailer, it actually really excited me because it looked like it followed this man who lives in New York and he's trying to discover himself, and he plays
Mm.
the piano. I was really excited for that, and like I said before, I was kind of let down when they took this direction about discovering his soul and helping this other person find their soul and their passion in the world. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know, I was kind of thrown off, and I kind of felt like I was cheated from a film that I really, really wanted.
Mm.
You go into a film and you expect something, and then when it kind of takes a different turn into a bad way, it kind of disappoints you, and it's like, oh, I just spent my money on this, and that's kind of what happened with Wonder Woman recently. But no, I feel like I was kind of cheated out of the film that I was expecting, and that's not something that a film should do. Um, but yeah, it's like I said before, it's not a bad film. It just didn't really do it for me.
Yeah, that's the thing with trailers now, man. Like, this happened to me so many times, like mainly with the Star Wars movies, I think, because I get so excited and you form like this own idea of what a sort of the perfect film or the perfect tone of the film that you're excited for is.
Yeah,
And you go in hoping for that, and then you just get something that's completely different, and you're like it's such a waste of excitement, and it's really quite depressing once you realize that, like, you expected something and you're getting something completely different.
yeah.
And I wanted to ask you this, like, Pixar films, I they've sort of got like a bit of prestige to them because they aim them at kids, but then they have stories that apply to adults, right?
Hmm.
And we've seen this. I think probably the best example for this is Cars, right?
Yeah.
Because I think anybody can watch Cars and have a good time. However, recently we've seen with a trend of Pixar films with films like Inside Out, for example, right? They're sort of tackling more adult themes and more, well, not adult themes, but just more mature themes
Hmm.
that just like kids just don't really care about. And I think this is the film that is by far the most mature animated film from Pixar.
Yeah.
And I feel like kids are not going to like this at all. But what are your, like, do you think kids are going to, attach themselves to Joe and him finding his soul in 22? Like,
Look, I think this film is definitely one of Pixar's most mature films, and it's probably aimed um, towards. I think I said this in my final note. It's aimed towards an adult audience, which is always great because you don't see many films, animated films rather, that are directed towards adults. A lot of the time, they're directed towards children, and like you said, yeah, I feel like this film isn't going to be appreciated from children as much as it would be from adults. But I feel like the reason that they incorporated this whole this whole dream sort of state, this soul world, with these blob characters and people like Graham Norton who are hippies. I feel like that was meant to bring the children into this film, and
mm,
then Joe Gardner's life in the real world was more so um, to impact adult audiences.
yeah, no, I agree. It was like a clash because you have this like very serious, but I mean, not entirely serious, but just like you just have a normal guy going about his life, and then everybody's rooting for him,
Yeah.
and then you have like blue blobs running everywhere, and New Zealand beings making jokes,
Mm.
and it's like well, it's a bit of a clash. But I didn't feel there was much of a clash watching it, but talking about it, like there's like a theme. There's like a theme change there. It's like a tonal difference between Joe Gardner is a man who is not in the position he wants to be in life, and
Mm.
he wants to achieve his dreams.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we have you know, like line blob dudes running around making jokes, and
Hmm.
like we have Terry who is just I don't know, bit of a
It
clash.
took a weird turn, right? That's why I was disappointed, because here I was thinking it's an adult film, and I was not even halfway, sorry, like 10 minutes into the film, I found out that it's got this person called 22 who, you know, makes all these weird, immature jokes. And I don't
Mm,
know, I feel like it was meant to be an adult film, and then they incorporated children elements to bring them in, and it just didn't work.
yeah. Yeah, so you touched on the humor there, and that's what I want to touch on a bit. I think sometimes the New Zealand like Terrys and Jerrys, I
Hmm.
think they were quite funny
They were good.
sometimes.
They were good.
They had some good lines, yeah. And we've talked about witty dialogue from Pixar, and one of those ones was a 22 said like, you're gonna wish you never died," and then one of the Jerrys are like, "Yeah, most people wish that, number 22." And so it's things like that that are like well written
Yeah,
and not exactly like laugh out loud, fall off your chair because you're laughing so hard, but
yeah,
it's just amusing,
yeah.
so. And I think sometimes like the Terrys and the Jerrys I found hilarious,
Hmm.
but the rest, like 22, didn't make me laugh at all.
No, and I feel like that's probably what they were intending for, right? It was meant to make the children laugh, not the adults, and then the Terrys and Jerrys were more suited towards us. But
Mm,
they shouldn't be doing that in a film, because you get this clash between them. And yeah, look, you can do it with films like Shrek. It's just that that's more, you know, incognito. You don't realize it as
yeah.
much. Whereas a film like this, you
Mm,
can see it out loud. It's like hits you right in the face, and it's like, is this a children film or is this an adult film? I'm not really sure.
yeah, and I think it definitely is an adult film, and for that reason, I think it's going to be critically well received. But nobody's going to talk about this film in 5 years.
It's
No, no,
it's
nobody.
it's gonna be like a
Sorry.
Wally film, right? Whereas like
Yeah, yeah.
it's like the forgotten Pixar film where everyone loves it when it comes out, and then 20 years later, it's like, oh, Wally, that was a Pixar film.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And same thing with Inside Out. I think it's going to follow the exact same trajectory as Inside Out. Inside Out came out, people liked it. It won the Oscar. Everyone was like, "Well, that was a good animated movie." Who's talking about Inside Out now? Absolutely no
No
one.
one.
And it's been 5 years because that came out in 2015. And I think this film's going to follow the exact same trajectory, which isn't, it's not necessarily like a bad thing, but like, when people say, "Oh, this is the most, revolutionary Pixar film," I'm like,
No,
I don't
you're
think
wrong.
so.
You're straight up wrong.
Yeah, for sure. But some good humor in the film. The best line I think from 22 was, or maybe it wasn't even 22, but someone says, "You can't crush a soul here. That's what Earth is
Oh, I
for."
wrote that down. Oh,
Yeah,
damn it. Who's it from?
I think it might be one of the Jerrys, maybe, or
I wrote the quote
Jerrys.
down, but I didn't quote who said it. No.
Yeah, same. I was like, "Oh, that's a good quote." I think it might be 22, because Um, yeah, I think because when Joe meets 22 at the start, I think is
I think it
when
is.
that's said.
Yeah.
But that's a good quote. That's a good quote. I like that.
Yeah.
But like kids aren't gonna like
They're
that.
not going to
Like,
understand that.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It's like I think this film, like the Disney executives sat them down and they were like, "Okay, guys, we want to make it. We want to get an Oscar this year, and that's about it. Just go do your thing."
Yeah.
And they did it, and they made a good film. But it's not like Finding Nemo, it's not Toy Story, it's not Cars, it's not something that people are gonna remember for the rest of their lives,
Yeah.
It's just which is sort of, a shame, but, some good lines nonetheless. We get, New Zealand Terry saying, "Seriously, stay away from those processed foods." And I think that's a, underlying kids message to
Yeah.
to the younger audience is
Yeah.
like, "Stop eating those chips.
All the
Stay
all
away
the
from
parents that have
those foods."
taken their children, they're like, "Oh, damn. I'm trying to watch a film here. Don't lecture me when I'm watching a film."
Yeah, here's the kid like watching the film in the theater, like, with their popcorn and, their large Coke
Yeah.
and like, seriously, stay away from those processed foods. But, whatever. What did you think about like the actual world? So like the Soul world and sort of like how that works. So if I can remember correctly, right, you have a spark, and that's your soul's purpose, right? And that's this, this like thing that you get put into your body before you become alive, or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
but if you become obsessed with your spark, and therefore obsession distances yourself from life itself,
Mm-hmm.
then you become like one of these like gray monster things that just like roam the endless black desert. It's quite depressing. Um, but I don't know. What did you think of like the whole soul world? And did you find it interesting at all? Do you find it clever at all? Like, I
Uh,
thought it was fine.
um, I don't know. I felt like it was just kind of a repeat of Inside Out. Inside Out is more
Mm,
so like feelings and stuff, but
yeah.
yeah, soul, as in the name of the film, it's more about the soul of the human. Um,
Mm,
it wasn't really all that interesting to me, and at times I felt like I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, I kind of want to see in real life Joe again. I don't want to be watching this soul world.
yeah.
But I think the premise of it was that you have this purpose or passion, this spark, like you said, and if you get stuck in this obsession state where Joe at the start of the film he's playing the piano and he kind of gets lost in it. He gets taken away to this other dimension, and then he kind of just obsesses about that, and then you become this lost soul who walks these lands forever. Um, I don't know. It's all really confusing, and it makes you think about it. But it's not the film that makes you think about it in an interesting way like Tenet. It's just kind of like, does that really work? I'm not sure. I don't really want to question it. It's just a kids' film. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It hasn't impacted me as much as you know Inside Out, or uh, I think I even enjoyed Coco and Onward more. So
Oh, really? Well, that's interesting. I definitely enjoyed this more than those two,
okay.
to be honest. I felt like the plot was better streamlined. Like I was more attached to Joe than I was to Barley or Coco or whatever his name is.
Hmm.
But so I've written here, right. So I don't know if you have any other notes, but towards the end of the film, um, Joe like completes his mission. 22's like been given her character arc, and then Joe goes to he goes onto like this conveyor belt to the great unknown.
Hmm.
And I feel like the great unknown was done quite well. You know how it had like the haunting music, and there's this
Yeah, yeah.
big white thing, and you're
Mm.
like, because that perfectly conveys for me the actual like meaning of like death, and because you don't know what it is,
Hmm.
but for some reason you're scared of it anyway. Like it's just a bright light,
Yeah,
but everyone's like, "Oh, I don't want to go
yeah,
there."
yeah.
So I don't know I thought that was quite clever.
No, I quite like that, and how like Terry has her like number thing, and she's like putting across all the numbers, and like, and then
Yeah.
I don't know, I kind of liked how it had this ominous sort of sound to it, like this.
It's like,
Yeah, and then everyone's just like on this conveyor belt going into it. Yeah, no, it's quite good.
yeah, yeah, and Joe, when he's on the conveyor belt at the end of the film, like he accepts, because obviously he dies at the start of the film, like he falls in a hole or something,
Hmm.
and he just like he must have fallen like 50 meters or something, and like just really had a horrible death.
Yeah.
But so he's accepted the fact that he's now going to die, and I thought that was quite emotional. I was like, wow, like he's fulfilled his purpose. He's accepting death. Like he puts his arms out and he sort of like accepts it. Like when so and so's on the edge of the Titanic and she's she's embracing what's to come,
Hmm.
right? And then one of the Terrys is like, "Oh, Joe, do you want to go back to your life, man?" It's like, wait, what? Like, this is, I feel like it's a bit of a cop out, because he accepts the fact that he's going to die. And I get this is a kid's film, so of course he has to live. But he's like on the conveyor belt, and the fact that, all of these things that he's done throughout the film has led him to fulfill a somewhat of a purpose in his life, and now he's accepting the next part of the journey of dying,
Mm.
like going into the unknown, and then someone just like pops up behind him. He's like, "Oh yeah, like, do you want to live?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't sound too bad. I guess I'll go back."
Mm.
And he goes back and he's just like vows to do better in life. I don't know, like it's beautiful, like it works anyway.
Mhm.
And obviously having him die would have been a bit depressing,
Yeah.
but I feel like it was a bit of a cop out, just being like, "Hey, do you want to go back to being alive now because we appreciate what you did?" I don't know. What were your thoughts on the final, on like the finale?
Um, I don't know. I feel like this whole film was just kind of average for me. Um,
Mhm.
and one of my notes was when Joe Gardner became a cat, the film just got like even weirder. Like it just took another
Oh, that was
turn
weird.
that was just.
Mm.
I feel like they probably could have gone without that. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. This film just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder, and I don't know. I feel like I was just. I've said this so many times. I was excited for this film, and then I was let down. I don't
Mm.
really know what else I could say about it. Yeah.
So, did you think it ended in a satisfying way for you?
Um, yeah, I think it did. You know how Joe Gardner got his second chance because he ended up giving 22 her spark, and she found her spark.
Mm.
And then Jerry, you know, good old Jerry's like, here, have another chance at life. Um, no, I think that was quite good. Um, yeah, I think overall it ended in quite a satisfying way.
Mm. Yeah. I've got a headline from CNN. Obviously, like CNN, don't trust them at all. But so they've written a headline though that I feel like perfectly encompasses um, what this film is about. Right? It says Soul rivals the Pixar classics, but might aim too high for kids. Right? Now, I don't entirely agree that this film rivals the Pixar classics, and I think you'd agree.
No, definitely, yeah. It doesn't stand up there with Toy Story and Monsters Inc. and definitely Cars. I mean, this film is like I think it tried to be that ambitious, but it fell quite short.
Yeah, yeah, and in terms of it aiming too high for kids, I think we're both in agreement that this isn't a kids film. Like they tried to make it a kids film, but they failed miserably if they really tried. But I don't think they did, to be honest.
Yeah.
This is the most grown-up kids film I've ever seen.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have any other thoughts. I'm happy to go to the music segment.
I just wanted to touch on this little thing I noticed. At one point in the film, there was this scene where we see all of these name badges from these people that have mentored 22, right?
Oh
And
yeah,
I actually paused the film and wrote down a few
yeah.
because I think it was kind of funny how she's been mentored by all these people. So she was mentored by Abraham Lincoln,
Mhm.
obviously the I want to say like the seventh president of the United States, but I'm
I have
not
no
sure.
idea.
Leonardo da Vinci,
Hmm.
George Orwell, who's obviously a famous writer, Animal
Yeah.
Farm, Confucius, Amelia Earhart, Martin Luther King Jr., Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso. So they were a few that I saw, and I think
Wow.
she also was mentored by Mother Teresa as well.
Yes. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then like this ordinary guy comes along and
yeah.
he's able to do it.
That's that's what I liked about the film. How this nobody comes along and mentors
Mm.
her, and she finds her spark
Yeah.
out of that. She's
Mm.
mentored by all these really famous people who changed the world, and then this ordinary person comes along, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to be like that."
Hmm. Yeah. No, it was quite nice. I don't know if you noticed, but John Ratzenberger, right?
Hmm.
He's usually in every Pixar film.
Yeah.
He's not credited in this movie, and his voice is not recognized anywhere, leading many people to believe that he's not in the movie. However, Pete Docter revealed that he does cameo in the film, but he refused to give away where and who
Oh,
he is. So people are going to be,
That's
carrying
interesting.
just thoroughly going over this film forever until they find John Ratzenberger because we know he's in there somewhere. It's funny, but those are all my thoughts. If you want to go to the music segment,
Yeah, let's do it.
all right. So every week we like to discuss a bit of the music of the film because we are firm believers that the music can sometimes make or break a film.
Yeah.
And the music in this film was composed by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, right? And those two are like a team, and they have done the music for Social Network, and they won the Oscar for best original music or best original score. And they also did Mank, which was their 2020 film that's just come out by David Fincher as well, which has quite good reviews, and also Gone Girl, so another David Fincher film, and music and that's quite good as well. So they're big names in the music industry. Also, John Batiste or something like that. He did like more of the jazz stuff, right? Because obviously a lot of the time in this film we get a jazz band playing, and that's all John. So so a big credit to him because I feel like the jazz in this movie is quite good.
Look, I think the music in this film was just about average. Nothing stood out to me. In fact, I think I said that on the last podcast episode. What did we do? Um,
Rogue One.
Rogue One. Like it's good music, but it's not like amazing music compared to other films that have been made by the same franchise. You've got a Friend by Me, Toy Story, even the stuff in Ratatouille, and then the same with Star Wars. Scoring from Empire Strikes Back, the Imperial March. It doesn't really compare to what you see in Rogue One.
Yeah.
And you can say that music gets better over time, right? You appreciate it because it becomes nostalgic, and this could be the same with this film, but nothing really stood out to me. It was great music, but it wasn't incredible music.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. I do think that this is probably likely to get up in the best original score category. It'll be nominated, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
And especially the main song, which I think is it's the song going into the Rewatch playlist this week, which is a playlist on Spotify. If you want to go check it out, there's a link in the YouTube description.
Mm-hmm.
But the song going in is "It's All Right," and that's like the main theme, I think.
Yeah.
And I feel like that song will be nominated for best original song from an animated movie or whatever the category is.
Yeah.
And Pixar usually wins that one too. So, business as usual for Pixar this year, I think. But yeah, those are all my thoughts on the music. I agree. I think it was good, but it wasn't fantastic. Nothing to save to your own playlist to listen to
Yeah.
when you're in the car or anything like that. So, but unless you're a jazz fan, if you're a jazz fan, you're going to love this movie and you're going to love the music in the film.
Yeah.
So, maybe jazz fans will cherish this film.
Just for the music.
Yeah, just for the music.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go to some final thoughts now before we sort of wrap up?
Yeah, you kick it off.
Okay, all right. So, I think I've written here, so the film is beautifully written, telling the story of an ordinary man who learns to appreciate the finer things in life. And I feel like, we can all, use a reminder about appreciating the finer things. But I think this is certainly one of the best films of 2020. And I think it's almost guaranteed to win the best animated film category.
Yeah.
And to be honest, knowing the Oscars and the diversity and all of those things and how everything factors into the awards, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets nominated for Best Picture as well, because animated films do qualify for Best Picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so for example, like Toy Story 3, it won Best Animated Film and it was also nominated for Best Picture.
Oh, wait, so Best Picture is like
And
best film of the year, right?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay.
yeah, and so obviously, when you have an animated movie with a reduced runtime, it's often hard to, have an impact of a 3-hour Martin Scorsese movie or something like that. So
Yeah.
they rarely do get into the Best Picture category, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one gets there, knowing the Oscars and their record. But I think the music is subtle, but it's great. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't say great. I'd say it's good. and I reckon it's likely to get an Oscar nom for that too.
Yeah.
So the film reminded me a lot of Inside Out, right? It was it's going to be critically praised, much like Inside Out, and enjoyed by audiences. However, no one's going to talk about this film in a couple of years. It's not going to have an impact
No, yeah.
like some of the other Pixar properties. But despite that, I don't actually think this film's purpose is to be iconic, right? It's not to build a franchise or anything like that. And Pete Docter has once again created a film that seemingly only wants to tell a good story and, not set up a whole, chain of films of, Soul 2, 3, and 4, for example. And I think we need more Pixar films like that. The next film that Pete Docter's going to make, I'm going to be interested
Yeah.
because I know this guy has a good record. So this film, it's not groundbreaking in almost any way. And I think it borrows a lot of tricks from other animated films. That's why I get a bit frustrated when people say, this is not textbook, this is completely fresh, because I don't think it is,
No, yeah.
in my opinion anyway. But it's a well-told story, though, and it's likely to leave somewhat of an impact upon adult viewers. But kids, they're not going to like this at all. So I'm going to give it a B+. What held it back from the A category for me was the fact that we see some of the same traits used in other movies, and the fact that I think animated movies need to do a better job at appealing to a younger audience, because I feel like animated movies, that's why they were created, for the younger audience. So I feel like if you just completely neglect those people and try and tell an adult story, that's fine, but don't do it in animation. Just make it a normal movie. But those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Jaden?
This is interesting because there's quite a gap between our
Oh dear,
rankings.
that's what we like.
I'm just going to start off and say this film was pretty average, so I'll give it a C rating. I I didn't really find anything in this film, overly, it's going to change the history of animation. It's just a film that comes out in a year that you'll forget 2 years later, like we've said 20,000 times. It wasn't incredible, and I've said it before, I was honestly kind of let down after seeing the trailer, and I felt like I was cheated out of the film that I really wanted. This film could have explored so many more things, and it opted to trying to find this mix between a child's film and an adult film, and that just didn't really work well. You got to, recognize that Pete Docter is doing these original films, which is great. It's just when you take things from other films and try to rehash them and say, hey, look, this is a completely new film, when it's in reality, it's not. That's when, things start to get a bit sketchy. This is clearly taking things from Inside Out, and people have already made that connection. Look, like you said before, this film is probably not going to be best suited for children, and I do think many adults will enjoy this film. It's just it didn't really resonate with me. So yeah, I feel like films like films that are not really regarded as Pixar's best work, like Monsters University and Coco and Onward, I still enjoyed them more. I had a better time watching them over this film, so I can't justify putting this as a C+ or a B- or even a B, because I didn't have a good time watching this film at all, really.
Okay.
So yeah, that's basically my opinion on this film. I do recommend it because I feel like a lot of people enjoy this film. It's just not my type of film.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it'll be really interesting to watch how this film does go, not only with the Oscars next year, but just with general audience perception over the next year or so, because, I think it's currently sitting at like an 85 on Metacritic. It's a 4.2 on Letterboxd at the moment.
Yeah,
And I feel like once the hype sort of dies down, I think that rating is going to slide ever so slightly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Those are my thoughts. But thank you for listening, everybody, to this episode of the Rewatch podcast. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at the Rewatch Pod. Those were our thoughts on Soul, the 2020 film by Pixar. One of the only new films that I was actually piqued my interest in 2020. And to be honest, I had a fine time with it. It was fine.
Okay.
So if you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search The Rewatch on YouTube. Next episode, we were planning on doing Wonder Woman, but do you want to tell us what happened with
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, Jaden?
I walked out of Wonder Woman because it was pretty horrendous.
Oh,
I'm still debating whether I should finish it. I might find it online somewhere and try to watch it. I might try to use a VPN and get it on HBO Max. But who knows? I mean, I don't really want to spend any more money on this film.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, what a shame.
we'll see if we do a podcast on it, but no guarantees.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna go see it. Fingers crossed am able to sit through it. But it doesn't sound like it's going too well, and a sequel's been confirmed already, so we're gonna get a third one.
God damn it!
Yeah, so but regardless, so next week we might be doing Wonder Woman, we might be doing something else.
Yeah.
So follow us on Instagram. You can find us, find out what we're doing next week there. But until then, thank you for listening, and bye for now.
Bye.